And so if you ever woke up and just felt like that you could legitimately predict the future, like a gambling mood, that is precisely where I am at right now. I really am. I woke up this morning and I was looking over a bunch of trash predictions of the AFC playoff picture. And I thought to myself, I could do it a hell of a lot better. I could do it a hell of a lot better. Okay. Because I'm seeing teams that are placed way too high that, in my opinion, aren't even going to make the playoffs in the first place. Okay. So what I thought today for, I don't know, next 30, 40 minutes, I'm fully aware that it's a Friday. Some of you might already have plans. Maybe you're already pre-gaming your current plans. But I just wanted to hop on here real fast. You know what I mean? And we're going to go through, in my opinion, a way too early prediction of what the playoff seeding is going to look like going into this football year. Whether you're a Dolphins fan, whether you're a Broncos fan, whether you are a Jags fan, one of the two, I have a feeling that you might be okay with what I have to say. Not the Jags, sorry. But it's a great segue, because whether or not that you're in a gambling mood or whether or not that you're just feeling lucky, it's a great segue into who is actually our sponsor today, which just so happens to be Prize Picks. Okay, now I'm feeling it today, right? And in case you guys have not heard of Prize Picks, it is literally the number one player prop bet solution platform out there as of right now. And I'm not going to give you a demo. This is literally me just scrolling through what I am anticipating of putting as my own bets to sort of start off. I'm going to go ahead and put the promo down there. That's right. They're hooking up the Dom Mafia. So if you are a gambling degenerate like myself and you want to get some free money, with the code AFC East, they're legitimately matching your first deposit. That's up to $100. So if you put in 25, they're going to give you $25, et cetera, et cetera. But number one, and then we'll get to the content here shortly. I just want to place my particular bet in here. I'm definitely going with my boy Josh Allen against the LA Rams. I really think that 275.5 passing yards, I'm definitely going over right there. That makes sense to me. Let me go with someone that's for sure going to go under. Tua. Look at that. Tua Tagovailoa. I am still terrible at pronouncing this poor guy's name. But I'm going to have to go with the under with 220.5 yards with this situation. And you know what? I think I'm just going to make it spicy. So I'm going to make it super spicy, and I'm going to add one more person to this little player prop bet parlay I got going on. This looks attractive to me. Well, first off, let me talk about the Tua pick. He's going up against the New England defense. I feel like that this just makes sense. I know that J.C. Jackson is no longer out there, but with Bill Belichick, he's very good at getting into his head. I know that he beat him last year, swept them. But defensively, I could definitely see the Dolphins heavily relying on their newly acquired run game. So I'm going to go on ahead and put Tua less. And then another attractive option for me is Lamar Jackson going up against the New York Jets. We all know that dude man simply just does not pass the football. He does not. He does not. And let's put it this way. Really all he has is Rashad Bateman out there as really any type of credible receiver outside of Mark Andrews. So I'm also going to add Lamar to the mix. And then I'm going to put Lamar throwing for under 230.5. Look at that. $20 would get me $100 if I win. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to up the ante. And so I'm going to put $50 down and win a potential $250. It's great. It's great because I mean, y'all could legitimately be doing the exact same thing. The website is pinned in the live chat. And then for those of you that are tuning in after the stream is over with, you can go ahead and check that out. But make sure that you end up putting in that code AFC East, and they will literally match your first deposit when it comes down to it. But I mean, I hate to be cliche, but saying that Josh Allen throws for over 275, probably an easy take. You know that the Bills are going out there damn gunslinging on Thursday night. Tua throwing under 220 is probably going to make sense, especially going up against the New England defense ran by Bill Belichick, called by Bill Belichick, and then Lamar Jackson throwing for under 230 just absolutely makes sense. That's my power play. Not necessarily thinking that you guys are going to go with the exact same thing, but that's not why you're here. That is not why you are here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the goods. Go up and pull up the goods over here, okay? Look at this. The AFC playoff picture. Okay? I feel like a lot of us have been... What's going on here? Hold on. And so I'm not trying to spoil anything for anybody here. But okay. All right. So we got the AFC playoff picture right here. And we have probably seen a couple of way too earlys. And I've been seeing a couple of teams on this list that have absolutely just infuriated me. I really feel like that we could do a better job. I've put together my own thoughts on exactly how this is going to look, strictly based off of how rosters are set up, what the rest of the divisions are looking like. So without further ado, let's just go on ahead and just dive into this as fast as humanly possible. Okay. Now, right now, there's only about 22 people in the chat right now. Normally that's the case, but you know what? I'm streaming every day and there's only so much Bills content. So I have to expand a little bit, baby. Have to expand a little bit. So if there's any Dolphins fans in here, you are about to be exceptionally happy because I have the Miami Dolphins. Going into the 7th seed of the draft. It's not the draft. What the hell is my problem? I'm literally on my second beer right now. doesn't make a whole lot of sense when it comes down into that. But so with the Dolphins, now I've said this time and time again, they still have a very good defense. I understand that Byron Jones is currently on the pup list, but overall, very, very good defense. When it comes down to it, they just had like that kryptonite, right? They had that kryptonite where they just couldn't really stop the Bills, like at that point. But on paper, still a great defense. Still a great defense. Right throughout the offseason, they invested heavily right within their offensive line. There is still some weakness onto the right side, I do want to say. They ended up grabbing Tyreek Hill. They have Jalen Waddle on the other side, who is very fast receiving core. Their run game has improved with Mostert. Yeah. And now that Gesicki seems to not be going anywhere, I feel like that if they do not make the 7th seed or make it into the playoffs this year, then it's just going to be an absolute, I would say, a disappointment for the Miami fans. And so at that point, so where it stands right now, the only way that I think that the Dolphins don't make the playoffs this year, and like I'm only giving them the 7th seed, maybe the 6th seed, perhaps, but the only way that I see them not making this and I turn out to be incorrect is as if that Tua absolutely just shits the bed. This is basically what I'm seeing at this point, and that is my first pick for the 7th seed going into it. Next up, the Denver Broncos. And trust me, this is not the last team that you will be seeing. Well, obviously it's not the last team, but you get where I'm coming from that division in the AFC West. Now, they did end up getting, right? Like and so an injury from one of their receivers, Tim Patrick, right? Which was definitely not great in preseason. He did end up tearing his ACL. But at the end of the day, they still have a very solid run game. They still have Jerry Jeudy and they still have KJ Hamler. And you just look at what a quarterback can do to a team. Number one example, hands down, is going to be Joe Burrow, what he ended up doing to the Bengals. I mean, shit. His second year, his last year, I would probably consider to be his first year since he played the entire season, right? His first year, he ended up getting that injury where he was out for the rest of the season. But when you add a competent quarterback to a team that already seemed to have all of the right pieces, I'm seeing the Broncos are going to skate away right within that number 6 seed. It just makes a lot of sense for me. I know a lot of people are hyping up the Raiders right now, but when it comes down into it, I think it's going to come down into the best quarterback play outside of that division, within that division, rather. Unfortunately, I just probably have to put Derek Carr at the least talented quarterback within the AFC West. And I could definitely see Russell Wilson leading this team into the double digits as far as wins are concerned. 10, maybe 11. I'm really seeing these guys lock down that 6 seed right now. Really makes a lot of sense on my end right there. And so we're seeing a couple of predictions right here within the live chat, but we're going to continue to move forward. Number 2, we're sticking around the same theme. And this is probably going to shock a lot of people. This is probably going to shock quite a few people because I guarantee you that y'all have seen this team ranked in the top 3, top 4 power rankings. I'm sure you've seen the AFC playoff picture predictions through major news sites. I see these guys making the playoffs, but not necessarily winning their division, and that just so happens to be the Kansas City Chiefs. That is right. That is right. I do not see the Kansas City Chiefs winning the division this year. However, it is not because I feel like that they're going to have a dumpster fire of a season. I think that they're still going to be very, very good. I just think that this other team that wins the division, which is probably obvious at this point, is a bit better stacked up, right? Last year, Frank Clark. I had a stroke there for a second. Please give me a break. Um, they're definitely hoping that he can go ahead and have a bounce back year. He was somewhat off when it came down to it. They did lose Tyreek Hill. Their offensive line, while still pretty solid, ended up losing some pretty solid decisions or some solid additions right within that overall room. So I feel like where the Kansas City Chiefs are, I feel like that it just doesn't really make sense for them to win this division because literally every single team in their division got significantly better by a variety of different moves, except for the Chiefs, right? I wouldn't necessarily say that they got worse because Tyreek was out, but he was a very, very popular target for Pat. Very popular target for Pat. He's now gone, so now it's just going to be Travis Kelce. They ended up getting Sky Moore, but even if they try and say that he has all of the intangibles as Tyreek Hill, he's still a rookie, right? So while I think that Patrick Mahomes can certainly do what like works best and lead them to the playoffs, and I mean, I'm not even going to say that their record's going to be significantly different from the team that ends up winning this division, but I just don't see them doing that. I feel like that this team that I am about to choose to win their division coming up here in a couple of picks is just going to sort of have them at the edge. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the number 5 spot and the division winner, so between the Chiefs and that one team I'm about to mention, is literally determined by the head-to-head matchup or by some other sort of caveat, some other sort of tiebreaker that goes into it. It's going to be very close. And frankly, right as a Buffalo Bills fan, I am so thrilled that that entire division just is going to be whooping each other's asses for the entire season. Because once all of these teams end up getting into the playoffs, they're going to be absolutely winded. So yeah, so starting off, so 7 seed, we have the Miami Dolphins. We have the Denver Broncos sitting at number 6. And then at number 5, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. That is going to wrap up the wild card area. Now it comes down into the division winners right over here. And then number 4, the division winner with the worst record of the other 3 is going to be the Indianapolis Colts. This is probably going to be very controversial because I cannot tell you how many people are probably just ready to wring my neck, be like, oh, Dan, what about the Tennessee Titans, dude? What about the Tennessee Titans? They are definitely going to win that division, or they're at least going to make the playoffs. What are you talking about? I would have to strongly disagree. I feel like all of the media hype that has been surrounded with the Titans has been with past accomplishments. Nobody talks about how the receiving core has literally spiraled down the drain as far as talent is concerned, right? With AJ Brown's like right out of Philly, with Julio Jones, he's now on Tampa Bay. Their number 1 receiver is Robert Woods. He's great. Trust me. As a Bills fan, like I thank him for his services when he was with Buffalo. But he has a significant injury history. And yeah, maybe he might have like 4 or 5 good games right before he gets a paper cut and he's out for the rest of the season. He's too injury prone for me to be able to ride enough and say, okay. And so the Tennessee Titans game is going to completely lead them right into the playoffs. Derrick Henry is going to lead them right into the playoffs. If you thought that Derrick Henry had a lot of touches last season or the season before, imagine how many touches he's about to have this year. That's literally putting this man's body, positioning him as a punching bag from Mike Tyson in his prime. I just don't think with Tannehill like right at the helm, and even if the rookie quarterback comes in, makes some plays, he's not ready for that. I don't see the Titans making the playoffs this year. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the Titans have a losing record, slightly above 500. But let's talk about the Colts because that's who's at number 4. last year the Colts were literally just a quarterback away, right? And I think with the addition of Matt Ryan, he's plagued with the whole like 28-3. Oh, you dropped a 28-3 lead against the Pats. He was just on like a very average team for a very long time. Of course, outside of that Super Bowl year where they absolutely made a run, he's a very capable quarterback. And I wouldn't be surprised if last year, if Matt Ryan was the quarterback for Indy, then they would have made the playoffs, right? I mean, you have Jonathan Taylor, you have a amazing defense, have an amazing defense. I feel like the Colts have one of the most slept on defenses in the entire league. But the common denominator here is that I feel like that Matt Ryan is just the best quarterback like within that division right then and there. So I'm seeing the Colts lock up the fourth spot when it comes into it. So definitely something to look into. Number 3, it is the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay. And I just want to address this because a lot of people, especially Ravens fans, are probably about to come in and say, "Oh, Dan, what about the Ravens, dude? What about the Ravens?" Same thing that plagues the Tennessee Titans, that also plagues the Baltimore Ravens, the receiving core. They have nobody. And before anybody comes in and starts saying, "Oh, bro, we have Bateman. We have Bateman." I never even heard of this guy until I started hearing sports personalities defend the Ravens for not having any receivers by listing off of his name. It sounds like an attempt to sound relevant for media purposes. Now, I understand that they were never really known as a pass first sort of offense, but when you're telling me all you have is Mark Andrews and all you have is Rashad Bateman, like as Lamar's like 2 go-tos, that's going to tell me that Lamar is going to do what he always does, and he's going to take off on his feet, right? His first 2 progressions are going to be gone, and then he's going to want to go, and then he'll risk himself for an injury. And I just really don't see the Ravens having a team that will be sustainable enough to make a playoff run. Now, I see them having a good season. I see them finishing in second place. Say, for example, that the AFC West was not absolutely stacked this year, then I could probably see them making the playoffs. I could probably see them making the playoffs at this point. But their defense is great, but that's why the Ravens are not at this spot. But number 3, the third spot with the Cincinnati Bengals, number 1 argument, and I mean, I'll go on ahead and I'll be the first one to even admit this, is right the fact that the dominoes fell into place for Cincinnati last year. Like, was basically the opposite of Murphy's Law. Rather than whatever could go wrong did go wrong, it's whatever could go right did go right for the Cincinnati Bengals outside of the Super Bowl. Their march to the Super Bowl was absolutely, I'm not going to say luck because I'm a huge fan of Burrow. I'm a huge fan of that team. I love their coach. They're talented, but they brought that team with probably the shittiest offensive line I've ever seen in my entire life to a Super Bowl. And with that, there needs to be at least a little luck that goes into it. This offseason, they have improved their offensive line. Would I call them elite? No, I would say that they're probably getting close to average. But that is significantly better than where they were last year, especially if you watch the Super Bowl. It was rough. And so I see the Bengals building momentum, and so I see that they're a shoe-in for the AFC North, and then they end up making in that third spot going into it. Number 2, the LA Chargers. Let me tell you something about this team. I am going to go on ahead and say that I legitimately see this team being the second best personnel-wise next to the number 1 seed that I'm about to announce. Surprise, surprise. Everyone knows who I'm about to announce for the number 1 seed, but let me digress here for a little bit. The Chargers are absolutely stacked, especially on defense. They have J.C. Jackson now, right on the outside. They still have Boza. They have Khalil Mack now. Their safeties are ill. Their linebackers are good. Receiving room. Justin Herbert is an amazing quarterback. They just couldn't put it together when they needed to because they were missing a couple of extra pieces. They were plagued by a couple of injuries. This team is a 13-win team. This team is a 13 to 14 to, dare I say, 15-win team this year. I guarantee you that this team is about to steamroll through the league. They're definitely going to have some close games against the Chiefs and the Broncos and even the Raiders. I know that some Raiders fans who maybe are watching this within the playback, you're probably going to be like, hey, man, listen, like we're definitely going to squeeze into the playoffs. That division, man, I wouldn't be surprised if the last place team in the AFC West finishes with a winning record. I would not be surprised at all. It's just how competitive it is at this point. But I feel like that the Chargers are hands down that go-to, like that number one place, that number one team that's out within that division specifically. So really excited to see it. And then last but not least, let's not bullshit ourselves. We already know exactly what I'm about to say is number one, the Buffalo Bills. And so I see the Buffalo Bills literally hands down marching away with this conference. I really, really do. And honestly, yes, you can call me biased, but if you go through any single power rankings or any single article that's even somewhat familiar to this sort of content that I'm putting out right now, the Buffalo Bills are hands down the best team in the league, right? Every article that you pull up, you will not see the Buffalo Bills listed as number one. You will not see the Buffalo Bills listed as number one. There's a couple that have the Rams as number one for power rankings, but that's just sort of giving them, I don't know, like a sort of like the tip of the cap or something for winning the Super Bowl, but we should have gone on ahead and done that out. We're just absolutely stacked. Luckily, we did end up escaping the offseason and the preseason without any significant injuries. It does hurt a little bit that we're most likely not going to see Trey White until week 8, and that's against the Green Bay Packers. So we're really going to have to rely on our youth, especially within the secondary. And that's coupled also with our absolute ballers of a safety tandem that are Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, sort of to pick up the slack right until he does return. But when you look at this offense, dude, perfect example is literally just watching those 3 passes from Josh Allen week 2 in the preseason. This offense is firing on all cylinders, on absolutely all cylinders. From what I saw, from the momentum that I saw from the playoffs last year, going into that one single drive in the preseason, the Buffalo Bills are literally all gas and no brake. They are all gas and no brake. And I wouldn't be surprised if our average points scored each and every single game, average, once the season is over, above 30. Dare I say above 35. We're going to see 4 or 5 50 burgers, maybe higher than 50. This team is going to put up points. We really, really are, man. And when I look at my schedule, when I look at our schedule, I'm really not seeing a lot of defenses that I'm terrified about. I'm really not. So that is my AFC playoff picture. Appreciate that. Thank you for tuning in with me today. Like I said, I just wanted to do a quick 30-minute stream on a Friday night. Fun fact, me and TD are actually about to be doing a show in about 45 minutes on the AFC East Roundtable channel. We're doing a panel. So with all of our Patreon contributors at the AFC East Roundtable, y'all are invited to join the show with us. We have a couple of conversation topics that we want to hit on. So would love for you to be over there. It's at the AFC East Roundtable channel. We're starting at about 7:15. Would absolutely love to see you there. Dom Mafia, thank you so much for tuning in to yet another edition of the Dom Mafia Report. Before I let you go, you better always remember, let's go Buffalo.